Welcome to Module 8 of our Practical AI in Healthcare course. I'm Dr. Sharon Basil, and in this module, we will be covering one of the most vital part of research, that is how you can format your research paper writing with AI, how to insert the citations automatically with AI, then how wonderful tools like PaperPal will help you for drafting your final manuscript. And finally, how to check for plagiarism, how to do paraphrasing, and what exactly is AI watermark, and how a watermark can be detected. So, and this activity is an accredited CPD under the Maintenance of Certification Program of Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada, provided through the University of Calgary. This is my faculty disclosure, and this educational content adheres to the national standard for support of accredited CPD activities through the following mechanisms. Now, here are the detailed learning objectives of this session. So initially, we will be learning about the what exactly is IMRAD format, how you can, there are some tips for ensuring like how your article adheres to the IMRAD format in the most most appropriate manner with the following the ethical standards, and how tools like PaperPal will help you draft it in a proper way, ensuring the coherent flow. Then we will be learning about reference managers, automatic reference management tools like Zotero, and how Zotero can be integrated into other AI tools. Then we will learn about plagiarism, similarity, then which are the AI detection tools available, and how you will be able to remove the AI watermark from your written content. And finally, we have a detailed discussion on transparency statement and AI disclosures. What are the ethical guidelines to be followed when using AI for research? So these are the basic topics that are covered in the session. Now, coming to the IMRAD format, this IMRAD stands for Introduction, Methodology, Results and Discussion. It's an acronym for that. Now, this particular format became popular in the 1970s. So before that, around Second World War, the research like structure, the researchers all around the world, they started like increasing, and more papers are getting published. But during that time, the main issue was like these researchers were research articles were not sent in the present format. It was sent in the form of a letter. Okay. Now, in that letter, all the content, all the introduction, everything will be written in a half-assed manner. So when someone else is reading that particular letter, it will be very difficult for that persons to like identify the key features that were mentioned in that paper. Okay. To ensure that there is a global or universal standard for writing research papers, then the main journals during that time, that is JAMA, Lancet, and NEJM, they decided to introduce a format which is a IMRAD format. Okay. Later on, when researchers found that this particular format is highly effective in representing their research in an easy to understand manner, then it got globally accepted. Now it's been the standard format that is used all around the world in most of the countries. Okay. And the basic idea, as I mentioned, is to turn the complex discovery into a clear, logical, and compelling story. So that's the primary idea of following this IMRAD format. Okay. Now we will be discussing each aspect of the IMRAD format and how you can meticulously craft your article in this format in a most effective way. Okay. So primarily the IMRAD format is answering questions of the readers or the reviewers on 4 realms. Okay. So first is the introduction, which basically gives the idea on why this particular study was necessary, or why this study was conducted, and what is the novelty what is the novelty of the study. Okay. Then comes a methodology, which is a how. Okay. So how this study is being conducted, what was the problem that was solved, what was the questionnaire that was used for the study, and so on. Okay. Then comes result, which answers the what. Okay. So what are the main findings of the study? Okay. And whether the study results were represented objectively. Okay. Then comes the last part, is a discussion. We're comparing our results with similar studies which were conducted previously. So this is answering to so what. Okay. So you have already conducted it. So what? So we have to compare like one person from another country has conducted the study and they got these results. However, in my country, the situation is different, population is different. Because of that, even with the same like questionnaire and same details, I am getting a different set of results. Okay, like that, we are comparing ourselves to the others so that we can interpret the results in an effective manner. Okay, so this is the basic idea behind the IMRAD format. Now we come to the different aspect of the IMRAD format. Okay. Now, the title of the study is almost like the gateway to your research. research, right? Someone suddenly come across your article in a search engine like PubMed or in Google Scholar. If they find like the title is attractive or the title answers to the query that they are asking for, there's a higher chance that your article gets discovered, right? So the crafting the title is really important for a research. It's equally important compared to the content of the article. So on crafting the title, we should be brief and specific. And usually journals will have their own requirements for a title. Usually the length that is recommended is 20 words. Total length should be less than 20 words, and the study design should be present in the title, and preferably the place of conducting the study, either the country or the state or the other details should be there, so that someone who looks at the title itself, they give a clear-cut idea regarding the basic aspects of the study. Okay. Then comes the part like it should be informative, obviously, and we should try to incorporate the keywords into the title so that when someone searches in search engines, your study will actually show up in the results, especially towards the top, so that it will get into the attention of other researchers. And we should also avoid abbreviations and jargons. Like we are preparing the study for a broader audience. There may be some like some abbreviation, say HIE, that is hypoxic encephalopathy, that is used in neonatology. But that HIE may not be a commonly used short like abbreviation on a people in another specialty. Like they may not be familiar with that keyword, right? So if it's a globally accepted abbreviation, that is fine. But other than that, it's always better to avoid those abbreviations and go for the entire length, or use the terms in its entirety rather than the short forms. Okay. And selecting the keywords is also important. It's like we should plan for two specific set of keywords when you are planning the keywords. So usually for an article they will tell like a minimum 3 or sometimes 5 keywords are needed along with the submission. And the basic idea of the keywords is to ensure that your article is indexed properly and is discoverable, right? But thing is, like, there are two sets of keywords. One is a broader type keyword, the other is a specific type of keyword. Okay, so we should have a nice mix of this broad and specific terms. So specific means the keywords which are specifically related to, say you are conducting a study on a specific aspect of liver. Say you are learning about hepatic encephalopathy. So, and you are measuring one particular factor in that particular study. So that factor can be used as one keyword. But hepatology or hepatic encephalopathy is a broader keyword, so that also should be included, right? So that when people looking for a broader topic, then also your article will be discovered. Right? Otherwise, if you are using only the specific terms used in the study or specific keywords, then those who are looking for only those specific terms will be able to see the study. Okay. So it's always better to go for a mix rather than focusing on either broad or specific. Okay. Next comes the abstract part. Okay, so abstract is like a glimpse of your study, right? Also, it can be even compared to a movie trailer. So just by reading the abstract, the person will get interested in reading more, and they will go for the full article. Usually, when you look at the article in PubMed or in Google Scholar and Consensus, initially after getting attracted by the title, we will click on the title, and then we will be taken to the abstract page, right? And if the abstract is interesting, then definitely the person will go for the full article. Otherwise, they will skip the article and then go for the next one, right? So because of this, it's important that we follow this particular, rather than following a 25% each on all the 4 IMRAT elements, it's better to go for this distinction. Okay. So ideally, that your abstract will be around 250 to 300 words. And in that, 25% should be introduction, 25% should be methodology. Then there is a difference. Okay. Results should form the 35%. It should not be 25, it should be a bit more. And discussion should be lower. Discussion should be only 15%. Okay. So this is a standard guideline on how exactly the abstract should be structured. Okay. In addition to that, whatever that is being discussed in your paper should be summarized in your abstract. You should not add any new information, or you should not add any undefined abbreviation, no citation. All these are the standard guidelines on creating the abstract. So it should stand by itself. It should be stand entirely on its own feet. but this should clearly reflect your study. Just like we watch a movie trailer, we have seen one particular scene in a trailer, but when we go to the movies to watch the entire film, then if that particular scene is missing, this won't look nice, right? So usually this abstract is exactly like that. We should not add some extra things that was not in the study, or not extra finding which was not included in the original study. It should be a complete concise version of the the article, right? And obviously, nowadays the AI tools are really smart. You can attach your full article and then give it a prompt like, assume that you are a famous researcher. I have conducted a study with this title and objective. The full article has been attached. I just want to create an abstract for this article following this particular percentage. Then you mention the percentage. Then automatically this will create a perfect abstract for you. Okay. And nowadays it's even smarter. Okay. Say you are planning to send for PLOS, or say you are planning to send for Lancet. So each journal has a small difference in the abstract like formatting and all. So you can specifically mention like, I am planning to send it to JAMA or plan to send it to Lancet, and create the abstract in the recommended format. Okay. So AI will automatically search the internet to understand the recommended format for that particular journal, then follow this particular percentage, and then create a beautiful abstract for you. In a similar way, it will create the keywords also. You simply tell it like, I want to create, this is an article, these are the details, I want 5 keywords. It should be a mix of specific and broad terms. So automatically it will suggest you the most perfect 5 keywords. Okay. So that's the method. Now we move on to the next main part in the eye of the Imbrad, that is the introduction part. So this is the area where we answers the why question. Okay. So ideally your introduction should have 3 parts. There should be an initial area where you will mention the establish the context. Okay. So we'll mention all the background information, including the prevalence of the present condition that you're discussing, what exactly that is already been known to us by quoting previous studies. So all those initial background need to be built in the initial part. Okay. Then we will identify the gap. So we will tell like, this has been the studies that were conducted, but presently there is very less information regarding this aspect. Or in my country, there is a very less number of studies has been conducted on this particular aspect, even though globally those studies are there. So I want to conduct a study. So we are essentially justifying our study, or essentially we are projecting the novelty of our study. Okay. Finally, towards the end, we will be mentioning our research question, aims or objectives, so that we will be concluding like, so this is a scenario. I have mentioned set the stage by putting the background. I identified the research gap. Now I'm plan to conduct a study based on these objectives. Okay. So this is the workflow, or this is the structure of how you craft a perfect introduction. All right. Now comes the methodology part. So methodology is that how part, like how the study is conducted. Okay. So primarily it should have multiple sections. So a basic overview is like, you should clearly mention your study design, all the inclusion exclusion criteria. In case if it's an RCT, you need to mention the how you have taken the population, what are the materials used. Then if there is a study with some terms in it, so you should have an area on study definitions. Then you should define who are the subjects of the study, what will be the sampling criteria, and all those aspects related to sampling, how this is being conducted. Then what are the questionnaires used, whether it's a standard questionnaire, if it's not a standard questionnaire, whether it's validated, so what is the process of validation. So all those aspects which standardize your study methodology should be included in that methodology section. Okay. Then comes the study procedure part, like how you're planning to conduct the study, how the consent is being taken, how you are approaching the participants, how they how the questionnaire is administered, whether it's an interview type, whether it's a self-reported one. Okay. All those details are mentioned in the procedure part. Following that, we need to mention regarding our data analysis plan, specifically based on the objectives, like these are my data analysis plan. If it's data is normally distributed, I will be doing this aspect. If it's not normally distributed, I will be using this aspect. Then I will be using this particular software for data analysis. And after that, we will also mention a few sentences on ethical considerations, and whether you obtain the ethical committee approval. And if you are conducting a RCT, you need to mention some trial, you need to register it prior in the trial registries and get some trial registry number. If it's a systematic review, you have to register in some other registries and you need to get a unique number, right? So these are some prerequisites, and you should properly in the structured format, you should incorporate all these details in the methodology. Okay. And there is some etiquettes on how the methodology should be structured. So usually methodology for a proposal, we usually we will be submitting the proposal before conducting the study, right? So we will be putting everything in present and future tense. But once you complete the study, and once you are writing the final manuscript, then methodology should be written in past tense everywhere, and you should be using passive voice. Okay, why a passive voice is like, usually if you use passive voice, you will be giving more preference to the action that is done, whereas if you are using active voice, your more preference is given on the actor. Okay, but for a methodology, our preference is on your actions, like how exactly you have performed this, how exactly you have conducted this. So always ensure past tense and passive voice when you're writing methodology. Okay. After that, we comes to the results part. So the general like structure is like, we will initially discuss all the socio-demographic variables. Okay. Then we move to the objective one. Then we move to the objective two. That's the general structure. And once you start writing the results, ensure that you mention the most important results first, followed by the less important ones. Try to incorporate a good number of tables and visuals like this. And when you're putting the visuals, all the images and tables, everything should be like giving the names and headings properly. And there should be at least 1 or 2 line explanation regarding these figures or visuals used in the result section. And the number of that, you will have that figure 1, figure 2, like numbers will be there, right? So those numbers need to be cited in the results part. And in case if it's a complex one like this, all the details should be mentioned underneath the images like a footnote. Okay. And uh, if you are using AI for generating the images, there should be a disclosure statement. We will be covering that soon. So in that, you need to mention like, these visuals are generated with AI, but I take the full responsibility for the images. Then ensure that that units used should be correct units, which are internationally accepted units. And in case if it's a table and you are having some associations done or some statistical testers being done, you should mention the p-value also. Okay, so this is the basic idea. And another common thing that we usually notice is like, if some study, there are some positive findings and there will be some negative findings. Sometimes you won't be finding any association, but that is perfectly fine. You need to disclose all the results. Okay, you should not hide the negative ones and show only the positive ones. You should be having a neutral approach, and you should show both the positive and negative finding. Sometimes negative finding are actually good. Like this will clearly show like one particular drug is not working. That's a good thing, right? So that we can look for a better drug, right? So in that way, you should have a mix of both positive and negative results. Then comes the discussion part. Okay, so the discussion is really important for a research. This will help us to standardize our results and help us compare the results with other studies. This will also show the relationship between our data and the hypothesis. Okay, and the basic structure of results is having these 5 aspects. Okay, one, in the discussion, we should summarize the main findings that will describe the results. Okay, and then we will interpret it with other findings, and then interpret it and connect with other research. These researches can be maybe researches conducted in your state, maybe in your country, or maybe globally. So depending on that, you can do the comparison and ensure that when you are comparing the results, the studies that you take for comparison should be published within the last 5 years. In case if it's a rare topic, you can go for the past 10 years, but it's better not to go beyond that. Okay. Then towards the end of the discussion, we should acknowledge the limitations of the study. You should be honest, and you can tell like, my sample size was low, my methodology, I had this issue, I should have gone for a better study design. Like that, you can tell your limitation. It is perfectly fine that you openly disclose the limitations so that you are credible and honest. Okay, so there is a higher chance that the reviewers will like you and your article will get accepted. Okay, and you should conclude with a paragraph telling like, based on my study, these are my findings, and I propose these recommendations, and I propose these future research on this, so that more reliable information, reliable data will be available if you follow this methodology. Like that, you can give some hints for the future researchers. Okay. Finally, we have the conclusion statement. Again, it's the same thing. Like we will mention the significance of the present study by concluding the most important key findings based on our objectives, restate the significance of the study, and finally, we will add those lines which I just mentioned regarding the the future research part and all those aspects. Okay. Okay. And this is another very interesting part. It's like once you start writing the article, there is some standard guidelines on how each area should be like how the tense and what's the word usage, what is the language usage on each aspect. So ideally, if you are writing the introduction, initially you start with present tense. Like this particular now, if you are studying regarding breast cancer, presently this is the prevalence of breast cancer in this particular country is this. Globally, as per WHO, this is this one. Like that, you can start with the present tense. After that, when you start citing the past articles, you switch over to past tense. Okay. Now, in methodology, as I previously mentioned, it should be definitely in past tense. Like we are already mentioning your past, let's say. Results also, it should be past tense. But in discussion, you should come back to present tense. Like you are interpreting the results, right? So it should be in present tense. And when you are comparing your results with the previous study, then that should be in past tense. So this should be the tense usage based on section. Then, as I mentioned again, it's ideal that you use passive voice in most of the areas so that focus will be gone more towards the say the actions done by you rather than the actor. Okay, though this is more evident in the methodology section. Then comes the use of transition words for a narrative flow. This is also interesting. It's like, say, when you are writing between the sections, like we have the Imbrad format, right? So between the sections, we can use this transition words for connecting between the sections. So if some person is reading your article, the full article, they will feel like there's a connection between the two, between the multiple sections, so that it will be like a continuous flow. Okay. For example, in the introduction, you can mention like words like however, despite this, while previous studies are focused on X, Y remains unexplored. Like that, some connection should be added. In methodology, you can also describe the steps using these words like first we had done this, next we have went for this, subsequently we went for this one. Upon completion of this step, I went for this one. Like that, you can connect the multi steps of the methodology together. Now, while discussion, while interpreting the results, you can use words like these findings suggest this could be explained by consistent with prior research. My study is giving these results. Like that, you can put some interpreting words, right? And also in the discussion, while acknowledging limitation, you can mention like one limitation of this study is this. These findings could be interpreted with caution. Like that, you can put so that it will be easier to read, or it will be more interesting to read your article rather than reading it in a monotonous tone, right? So you can always think of various transition word in case English is not your first language and you are struggling to write it in that flow. AI can help you in this aspect. So we will be seeing the tools like PaperPal, or we can use any of the AI tools so that it can do some proofreading of your article and will help you to insert these transition words. Only thing is, you should specifically mention in the prompt that between the section, these transition words need to be included, so that for the narrative flow. So automatically it will rephrase your article in such a way so that it will be very nice to read for the for a person who is exploring it, right? So and finally, this is our final Imbrad blueprint. So I'm just giving a summary. So ideally, when you write the article, you should give preference to a title and keyword, which is a gateway to your work. Abstract is like a trailer of your movie, and then the introduction, which is a why part, where you establish the context, identify the gaps, and state the purpose. Then you move over to the how section, that is methodology, where you detail the study design, describe the procedure, and explain the analysis. Then comes a what section, like what are your findings. That's the result section. You report the data objectively, use visuals and tables, and do not interpret anything in the results part. Then comes to the discussion part, which answers the so what section. There you summarize the main findings, interpret the meanings, connect to previously conducted literature, acknowledge the limitation, and suggest future work. Okay, so this is the general blueprint of how you conduct an ideal study based on the Imbrad format. I'm sure that you already knows most of these points, but I just want to cover it in clarity so that once we start drafting the main article, this will come really handy. All right. So thank you for the patient listening. Now in the subsequent sessions, we will be seeing how we can draft the article using PaperPal, and we will also see how we can do the citation manager. Thank you.